Hey everybody, hello. Welcome to today's live lesson. We're going to give just a couple of minutes and let everyone join in. I know I ask this every time, but I just want to make sure you all can see me and hear me clearly before I keep talking. So if you can see me and hear me clearly, please let me know in the chat. Okay, awesome. All is well. You can see me and hear me. Well, hello to everyone, wherever you're watching from this morning. Happy Sunday. It is great I can't physically see you, but I can see what you're writing in the chat. So it's great to be here with you for another live lesson today. Today, our topic is going to be inseparable phrasal verbs versus separable phrasal verbs. It's a bit of an advanced topic, so bear with me. We're going to learn some new phrasal verbs and also talk about the difference between the two types of phrasal verbs, the inseparable and separable. And of course, we're going to practice at the end of the lesson. While we are waiting for some viewers to join in, please tell me in the chat where you're watching from this morning or this afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. We'll give some shout outs. While you're typing where you're watching from, my name is Molly. I am a Cambly tutor. I am from the US and currently living in the state of Tennessee. Someone asked how the weather is. It is very, very cold. Not as cold as the north of the US right now. I know they're getting some snow, but it's still very cold. I don't like the cold weather. And it's early. So here in Tennessee, the time changed. In the US, we have daylight savings time. So our clocks moved back 1 hour. So I'm giving this lesson 1 hour earlier than I usually do. So I had some extra coffee this morning. All right, let's see where you're watching from. I see Sri Lanka. Hello, Sri Lanka. Hi, Thailand and India and Japan. Hello, Cambodia and Bangladesh, Indonesia and Pakistan. Hi, Nepal, Somalia. Someone's watching from Istanbul and Turkey. Awesome. It's a lot of different countries this morning. I've only seen, I think, a couple repeated. You guys are watching from lots of different countries this morning. Tell me how the weather is where you are. So I told you it's very cold this morning. It's 8 a.m. And it's too cold for me. Is it cold where you all are watching from yet, or is it still warm? It's rainy. I don't like the rain either. Unless it's a lazy day. Rain makes for a lazy day to stay in. Oh, it's hot where you are. Someone said quite hot. Where are you located? Where is it quite hot? Hi, Pakistan. Someone said they're shivering too. Yeah, this morning I thought I was going to have to teach this lesson with a jacket on. This room in my house is the coldest. It's the coldest room. Someone's watching from Mumbai, India, and they said it's very warm there. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of all of you who are saying it's warm. Yeah. Hi, Iraq. Guatemala. Hello, Guatemala. Awesome. All right. Well, you guys can keep typing where you're watching from in the chat. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know we're limited on time, and for some of you, it's already the evening, so you probably want to go to bed pretty soon. So again, my name is Molly, and today's live lesson is going to be inseparable phrasal verbs versus separable phrasal verbs. So we're going to talk about the difference between those. We're going to learn some new phrasal verbs. Maybe you already know them, and go over some examples. And then at the end, we will make sure we have time for you to practice. Don't forget, if you need to leave early, This live is going to be recorded and uploaded to Cambly's YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch it again without any issue. Also, before we jump right in, I just want to give a reminder that the Cambly Lives are going to take a short break for the holidays. So December 8th is going to be the last Cambly Live lesson, and then we will begin again on January 8th. So, I'm sorry, let me double check those dates. So Sunday, December 4th will be the last live lesson until we take a break, and then they will start again on Sunday, January 8th. So just a quick break for the holidays. It is sad, yes, but we're not leaving forever. Don't worry, just taking a break. All right, so let's jump into today's lesson. Hopefully you all are ready to learn something new or review something you've already learned. So in English, we have a lot of actions that we can only express by using phrasal verbs. So phrasal verbs, some English learners love learning them because they make you sound more like a native speaker. But some people have trouble because they take a lot of practice and a lot of memorization, so they can be a little difficult to learn. Who can tell me, what is a phrasal verb? What's the definition of a phrasal verb? If you know what a phrasal verb is, type it in the chat. So you know what a verb is, but we also have phrasal verbs. What is a phrasal verb made up of? Let's see if anybody knows. I'll give you just a minute. Good. So a phrasal verb is going to be a verb that's made up of a preposition or adverb, and it has a special meaning. So again, phrasal verbs are verbs with a preposition or adverb, and they have a special meaning. So phrasal verbs are really important in English, and they're also very, very commonly used in conversation, daily conversation. However, they do take a lot of practice and a lot of review to learn them correctly, to know how to use them in a sentence. All right, so we have two types of phrasal verbs. Today we're going to start by talking about an inseparable phrasal verb. So an inseparable phrasal verb means that the verb and the preposition or adverb that makes up the phrasal verb, they must stay together, okay? We can't split up the verb and the preposition or adverb, okay? They must stay next to each other in a sentence. So they're inseparable. We cannot separate them. And the object has to come at the end of the phrasal verb. So we cannot place the object between the verb and the preposition or adverb. So we're going to look at an example. I know that's a lot of information, but once we look at some examples, I promise it'll get a little easier to understand. So we're going to take the phrasal verb run into first. Run into is a phrasal verb. What does run into mean? It means to see someone without planning it, or to bump someone or something accidentally. So it has two meanings. To run into someone means you see someone somewhere and it wasn't planned, or you accidentally bump into someone or something. Okay, so you see we have our verb run and our preposition into, so this makes up the phrasal verb. Run into is an inseparable phrasal verb, meaning that run into has to stay together. We can't put an object between run and into, okay? Let me hang this up, and then we're going to look at an example sentence. Make sure you can see that. My tape isn't very good, so hopefully these will stay up. Okay, so let's look at an example of this. So run into. I always run into people I know At the grocery store. I can't read backwards. I always run into people I know at the grocery store. So remember, run into is when you see someone without planning it. So maybe you go to the grocery store on a Sunday morning and you see 3 people you know, but you didn't know they were going to be at the grocery store. So I always run into people I know at the grocery store. This is the correct way to use this phrasal verb. Now, incorrectly, we can't say, I always run people I know into at the grocery store. Okay, so we cannot place people I know, our object, between run into. Run into have to stay next to each other in the sentence. We also can't say, I always run people I know at the store into. Okay, so we can't put our preposition at the end of the sentence. Run into have to stay right next to each other. We can't separate them. So run into is an example of an inseparable phrasal verb. Let's look at another example. Someone asked me to move my camera a little closer. I'm not sure how much closer I can get, but we can try it. I think that's about as close as I can get without my computer falling off of my desk. So hopefully that's a little better. Okay, let's look at another phrasal verb that is inseparable, which is going to be count on. Count on. So the meaning of count on: to trust someone to do something or be sure that something will happen. The meaning of count on. So again, a phrasal verb is our verb, and in this case, we have a preposition. Okay, count on. This is an inseparable phrasal verb, which means that these two have to stay together in the sentence. We cannot put any words between them. And the meaning of count on is to trust someone to do something or be sure that something will happen. Let me hang this up and I'll give you an example sentence. Make sure you can see that. So, for example, I can always count on my best friend to give me good advice. I can always count on my best friend to give me good advice. So it means I can always trust that my friend, she's always going to give me good advice. I can count on her. Now again, this phrasal verb is inseparable, so we couldn't say, I can always count my best friend on to give me good advice. That's incorrect. We can't put the object, my best friend, between count and on. They have to stay together. I can always count on my best friend to give me good advice. Let's look at another one. The next one is get rid of. Get rid of. To get rid of something or someone means to remove something that you no longer want. To remove or eliminate something that you no longer want. Again, get rid of is going to be an inseparable phrasal verb, so we cannot insert any words between these. It has to stay together in the sentence. To get rid of something is to remove something that you don't want anymore. You don't want it anymore. Let's look at an example sentence. I need to get rid of all of my clothes that don't fit anymore. So I have clothes that are too small for me in my closet. I don't know why I still have them. I need to get rid of them. I need to remove all of the clothes that are too small for me. I need to get rid of all of my clothes that don't fit anymore. So because this is an inseparable phrasal verb, get rid of has to stay together in the sentence. Okay? Get rid of. I need to get rid of my old laptop. Yeah, maybe you can sell it and make some money. Good. You guys are giving some great example sentences. And I'm going to ask again at the end of the lesson for you to give me some example sentences. So maybe you can think of a lot. Someone said, I always run into a police patrol at 5:30 p.m. on my street. Hopefully that means you live on a safe street if the police are already there or always there at 5:30. All right. We're going to look at one more example of an inseparable phrasal verb. And then if you have any questions, now is the time to type them in the chat before we move on to separable phrasal verbs. And they're quite the opposite of an inseparable phrasal verb. So we'll spend a little more time with those. So our last inseparable phrasal verb is put up with. Put up with. This means to be willing to accept someone or something that is not desirable or is unpleasant, okay? So maybe there's a situation that's not pleasant, but you accept it anyways. Or maybe you know someone that is unpleasant to be around, but you're willing to accept being around them anyways, okay? This is to put up with. So you are willing to accept a person or a situation, something that's not pleasant, not desirable, which I think many of us have to do this in our life. It's just a part of life, is to put up with things that we don't really like or enjoy. It's a part of life. Let me hang this one up. To put up with. Okay, so again, let's just do a quick review. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat and I'll review them in just a minute. So really quickly, just a review, a phrasal verb is made up of a verb plus a preposition or adverb. They have special meanings and they are very, very commonly used in English. You'll see them all the time. They're very important to use in your conversation. You'll see them in reading. You'll hear them on TV shows and in music. Phrasal verbs are everywhere in English. They do take a lot of practice and a lot of memorization. And there are inseparable phrasal verbs, which we just covered. So this just means that the verb and the preposition that make up that phrasal verb must stay together in the sentence, okay? We can't put the object between them. So let me check and see if anyone has any questions, and then we're going to move on to separable phrasal verbs. Yeah, so someone asked, can we use phrasal verbs in exams or only in conversation? You can absolutely use them if you're writing something for exam or speaking. Yeah, absolutely, you can use phrasal verbs. They're used for everything. I've probably already said some phrasal verbs and haven't even realized it. Because they're used so commonly. So it's not just an informal way, I guess is your question, right? So phrasal verbs aren't informal. They're also formal. They can be used in writing, speaking. You'll probably see them on exams without realizing it, or maybe you do realize it. They're used all the time. Yeah, you'll see them in essays, and you can use them in essays as well. Now, some phrasal verbs might be a little more informal, and that's kind of where they can be more complicated, is when you're studying them. It's best to make sure you're using them correctly. If you don't know how to use them correctly, don't use them, right? So when you're using a phrasal verb, you want to make sure you're using it in the correct context. And some phrasal verbs have more than one meaning, so that's where they get a little tricky. Someone asked if I can give an example of put up with. Oh, did I give you an example? I didn't. I'm so sorry. I have an example and I didn't give it to you. Yes, I forgot. Thank you for noticing. So my example sentence of put up with. So again, put up with is to be willing to accept someone or something that is not pleasant or desirable. So I use the example, she doesn't like her boss, but she puts up with him because she loves her job. She doesn't like her boss, right? So he's an unpleasant person. He's mad all the time and not very nice. I'm making this up. This is a hypothetical situation. She doesn't like her boss, but she puts up with him. So she has accepted it anyways because she loves her job, right? She's accepted this unpleasant person because she loves her job. So this is my example for puts up with. You're willing to accept something or someone unpleasant. Sorry, I forgot that one. Let's see if there's any other questions. Good. Someone said to put up with, in one word, tolerate, to tolerate someone. So that's a synonym. When we tolerate someone, we put up with them. Good. Okay, so we're going to move on to separable phrasal verbs, and we have a little more to cover for this. So again, in separable phrasal verbs, we cannot separate them. They must stay together in a sentence. However, separable phrasal verbs are the opposite. So we can separate phrasal verbs in the sentence by putting the object between them, okay? And we actually have a choice, so it's not required that you separate the phrasal verb, but you have the choice to put the object between them if you want, okay? So the verb and the preposition or adverb can be separated. We can put the object in the middle, or we can put the object at the end like we do with inseparable verbs. However, there is one important thing to remember with separable phrasal verbs, and I'll say this twice, and we'll go over it again at the end. When we have a pronoun like him, her, them, us, or it, okay, these are all pronouns. If we have a pronoun, him, her, them, us, or it, we must separate the phrasal verb. So you're going to see this in our examples. So when you have a sentence and you have a separable phrasal verb, and you also have a pronoun like him, her, them, us, or it, you must 100% separate the phrasal verb. If you don't, it won't be grammatically correct. It won't make sense, okay? So let's look at an example of this. Let's first learn one of the separable phrasal verbs, and then we'll look at an example. So pick up is going to be a separable phrasal verb, meaning that we can separate pick and up by putting an object between it, or we can keep them together in the sentence and put the object at the end, okay? The meaning of pick up it has two meanings. It actually has more than two, but I just included the two most important meanings. But there's more. Pick up has multiple meanings. So to pick up is to go somewhere to collect someone, normally in your car. So normally you'll drive your car to someone to get them. That is to pick up someone. Or to lift something or someone, usually from the ground or from the surface, from a table. To pick up is to lift someone or something up from a surface, okay? So to pick up my dog. My dog is on the ground and I go down to lift her. I'm picking up my dog. Pick up. Or if I need to take my sister to school, she doesn't live with me, so I need to go pick up my sister. So I can say pick up my sister, or I can say pick my sister up. And this is the difference. This is why pick up is a separable phrasal verb, because I can say I need to pick up my sister, or I need to pick my sister up. Okay, so I can put my sister between pick and up. So this is the difference. So let's backtrack just a little bit. Remember I said when we have a separable phrasal verb, if we have a pronoun like him, her, them, us, or it, we must separate the phrasal verb, okay? They must separate in the sentence. So we're going to use pick up as an example. The correct way would be, he doesn't have a car and asked me to pick him up. So him is a pronoun like we mentioned earlier. And because we're using him in this sentence, him must come between pick up. We must separate the phrasal verb, okay? We have to put the pronoun between the phrasal verb. So he doesn't have a car and asked me to pick him up. Now, because we have this pronoun, it is incorrect if we say he doesn't have a car and asked me to pick up him. Okay, we cannot say that. It's not grammatically correct. Now, the sentence I gave before using my sister is not a pronoun like we mentioned, right? The pronouns we mentioned are him, her, them, us, it. If you have one of those pronouns, it must come between the verb and the preposition. But if you have something like my sister, a noun, you can either put it between or at the end. I need to pick up my sister. I need to pick my sister up. Does that make sense? If it does, give me a yes, that makes sense in the chat. If it doesn't, say no. I need you to go over that again, please. We have another rule we're going to talk about as well in just a minute. Good. Someone gave an example. Yeah, I'll pick my friend up at the station. Or you could say, I'll pick up my friend at the station. Both are correct. I'm going to pick up some groceries. Very good. Or you could say, I'm going to pick some groceries up, because we can separate the phrasal verb. Pick my sister up, pick up my sister. Same meaning, yes. It depends on the context. So it can mean that I'm going in my car to get my sister from her house. Or if my sister is a baby and I'm going to pick up my sister, it means I'm going to lift her and carry her. So it depends on the context of the sentence, but they mean the same no matter where my sister is in the sentence. I need to pick up my son from the nursery. Very good. Or you can say, I need to pick my son up from the nursery. Very good. My daughter asked me to pick her up. Very good. My daughter asked me to pick her up. Great. So you have to have her between pick and up because it's a pronoun. So anytime we have one of those pronouns, we must separate the phrasal verb. I need to pick my sister up from school. Perfect. Or I need to pick up my sister from school. Both of those are correct. Great job. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, we can go over it again. We're going to move on to another rule. So the first rule about separable phrasal verbs, as we just talked about, is if we have a pronoun, you have to separate that phrasal verb. It doesn't make sense if we put the pronoun at the end. Okay, it will not be correct in a sentence. Another important thing to remember is that if our object in the sentence is really long, we usually don't want to separate the phrasal verb, okay, even if we can. So again, we have separable phrasal verbs, so we always have the option to separate them in the sentence. But if our object is really long, it can be a little confusing if we do that, okay? So it's much clearer for our listener if we don't separate the phrasal verb if our object is long. So let's look at an example of that. So, again, using the phrasal verb pick up. So the correct way would be at 5 p.m., I have to pick up a friend of mine at the airport. Okay. So the object in this sentence is a friend of mine. So that's 4 words. That object is 4 words, a friend of mine. Because this object is 4 words, it sounds better if we keep pick up together in the sentence. It's clearer if we say at 5 p.m., I have to pick up a friend of mine at the airport. Again, it is a separable phrasal verb, so we could also say at 5 p.m., I have to pick a friend of mine up at the airport. This is technically grammatically correct. You can say this, but as you can hear, it's a little less clear, a little more confusing to say it this way because our object is so long. At 5 p.m., I have to pick a friend of mine up at the airport. Okay? So this is something to keep in mind when we're using separable phrasal verbs. If we have a long object, maybe that's 4 or more words, it is best to keep our phrasal verb together in the sentence and not separate it. Is that clear? Does that make sense? If it does, give me a yes in the chat. If you're still confused, give me a question mark in the chat, and I'll know if we need to cover it again, okay? All right, awesome. We'll still review it again at the end, don't worry. So we're gonna go over, did I not tape our pick up? I'm sorry. Let me go back. We're going to go over 3 more separable phrasal verbs with some examples, and then we're going to practice. So there's pick up. Our next one you have probably heard many times, work out. I'm sure you've heard the second meaning a lot, maybe, for workout. So workout actually has multiple meanings. I only included 3 here, and I only gave an example sentence for the first one. So work out, again, our verb is work. Our preposition is out. This makes it a phrasal verb. It is a separable phrasal verb, meaning we can separate these 2 words in the sentence by putting the object in the middle, okay? The meaning of workout is to solve a problem. One of the meanings, to solve a problem, to work something out. So I put the object something between them. It also means to do physical exercise. I'm going to work out means I'm going to exercise. Maybe you're going to exercise a specific muscle. Today, I'm going to work out my legs, or I'm going to work my legs out. It can also mean how something ends, how something ends. So how it works out is how it ends, the final product, okay? So these are 3 meanings. I believe there are more, but these are the 3 most common meanings of the phrasal verb work out. And let's look at an example of this. My siblings is brothers and sisters. My siblings argue a lot, but they always work it out. My siblings argue a lot, but they always work it out, meaning they always solve their argument or their problem, okay? Now, backtracking again, it is one of those pronouns. So remember the rule. If we have the pronoun him, her, it, them, us, you're going to get tired of me saying this. It has to come in the middle of the phrasal verb. Even if the phrasal verb is a separable phrasal verb, if we have one of those pronouns, it must come in the middle. We must separate it, okay? We don't have the option. So we cannot say, my siblings argue a lot, but they always work out it. That is incorrect. It doesn't make sense. The pronoun must come in the middle. My siblings argue a lot, but they always work it out. All right. We have 2 more phrasal verbs. Stick with me, and then we're going to practice, and then we'll be done for today. And then you won't see me again until January. All right, the next one, ignore this little I down here. Figure out. Figure out. So to figure out is to be able to understand something or solve a problem. To figure something out. So it is a separable phrasal verb. We can put the object in the middle unless it's a pronoun. Unless it's a pronoun, it has to come in the middle. If it's not a pronoun, we can optionally put it in the middle or at the end. So to figure out means to be able to understand something or to solve a problem. Good. We can work that problem out. Going back to work out. We can work that problem out. Perfect. Or you can say we can work out that problem, right? Because that problem is the object. We can put it in the middle or we can put it at the end. We can work out that problem or we can work that problem out. Great example. All right, last phrasal verb of today. Hopefully some of these were new for you or a good review. I tried not to do too many phrasal verbs. 8 is a lot to learn in one day. Let's give an example of figure out. Okay, figure out. Molly doesn't know how to repair her dishwasher, but she will figure it out because she doesn't want to pay someone to do it for her. Molly doesn't know how to repair her dishwasher, but she will figure it out. So I will be able to understand it. I will solve it somehow. Figure it out. And because I'm using the pronoun it, we have to separate the phrasal verb. It has to come in the middle. So I couldn't say, but she will figure out it. That doesn't make sense. Okay. All right. Now for our last phrasal verb of the day, our last separable phrasal verb. Cut out. Cut out. I included 2 meanings in here. There's more than this. There's multiple meanings of the phrasal verb cut out, but I just did the 2 most common. So the first meaning of cut out is to eliminate something unnecessary or unwanted. To eliminate something unnecessary or unwanted. It also means to take scissors and cut something out from paper, or maybe a knife. I don't know. Okay, so to cut something out. So if I had scissors right now and I wanted to cut out the word unnecessary, it also means that. Okay, cut out. So because this is a separable phrasal verb, we can either put the object in the middle or at the end. Maybe when you were in school, when you were little, in elementary school, you had to cut out shapes from a piece of paper. So you could say, I had to cut the shapes, our object is the shapes, out. I had to cut the shapes out because it's separable. Or you could say, I had to cut out the shapes. We have the option. I had to cut out the shapes or I had to cut the shapes out. Both are right. And my example sentence of this one is, I drink too much coffee in a day. I really need to cut it out. I need to eliminate the amount of coffee I drink in a day. It's unnecessary. And because I use the pronoun it, we can't separate the verb. So I could not say, I really need to cut out it. This is incorrect. It has to be, I really need to cut it out. Now I could say, I really need to cut out coffee. I really need to cut the coffee, the amount of coffee that I drink out. It's a lot. I've only had 1 cup this morning though, a big cup of coffee. Okay, we're gonna do one really quick review between the two, and then we're gonna practice, and then we will be done for today. I know we're almost over time, and some of you are ready to leave. So again, our phrasal verbs, we've got inseparable, we've got separable. When we have an inseparable phrasal verb, it means it must stay together in the sentence. We cannot put the object between it, or it will not make sense. It will be incorrect. However, when we have a separable phrasal verb, we can separate the phrasal verb in this sentence by putting the object between it, unless we have a pronoun. When we have a pronoun, we have to separate the phrasal verb, okay? We can't put it at the end. We don't have the option to do that. So that is the difference between inseparable phrasal verbs and separable phrasal verbs. Now, if you have any questions at all, now is the time to type them. We have 4 practices that we're going to do really quick, and then I'm going to have you do one more thing before we go, okay? So if you've got any questions at all, please type them now as we start our practice. I'm going to give you a sentence, and you have to fill in the sentence with the correct phrasal verb that you learned today. So one of these 8 phrasal verbs, I will also move to the side. And I also want you to tell me if it's a separable or inseparable phrasal verb. So maybe we need a cheat. Let's take those down. All right. So our first sentence is, my coworker is so annoying, but I learned to blank him. Which phrasal verb goes here in the sentence? Hopefully you can see all of that. Try to get out of your way. My coworker is so annoying, but I learned to blank. Good. I already see some correct answers. Someone said, how can I know between inseparable and separable? That's the catch. It's a test. I'll put them back up at the end, but it's a test. You tell me. Okay, good. So it should be put up with. Put up with. So my coworker is so annoying, but I learned to put up with him. Is this a separable phrasal verb or an inseparable phrasal verb? Put up with. I should have mixed these up too. Yeah, put up with is inseparable. So this means this phrasal verb has to stay together in the sentence. Very good. My coworker is so annoying, but I put up with him anyways. Good job. Okay, next one. Joe eats a lot of desserts. For his New Year resolution, he wants to blank. Remember, some of these you have to add the object in with it. Okay, so it's a little tricky. Don't forget your object or your pronoun that you have to add in. Joe eats a lot of desserts. For his New Year's resolution, he wants to blank. Okay, I see you've got the right phrasal verb, but you're missing something that goes along with the phrasal verb. You're missing one word. So the phrasal verb's right that you're typing. Who can, so desserts is plural. Desserts is plural. So how do we make that an object? If desserts is plural, now I see some almost right answers, but it is singular and desserts is plural. So what should it be instead? See if I get any right answers before I show. Oh, good job. Who was the first one who got it? Lulian. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Okay, good. Now I see lots of Mina. Okay, good. So the correct phrasal verb is cut out, but we're referring to desserts, right? So we're going to say cut them out. Cut them out. And them is one of those pronouns, so it has to go in the middle. And this is a separable phrasal verb. Separable phrasal verb. Why is it separable? Because we're putting them in the middle, right? We're separating cut out by putting them in the middle. Good. Joe eats a lot of desserts for his New Year's resolution. He wants to cut them out. Great job. All right. 2 more. My 2 friends are upset with each other and refuse to blank. Move out of your way again. My 2 friends are upset with each other and refuse to what? Which one are we going to use? Remember, you might have to put something between. You might have to add an extra word in with the phrasal verb. I see the correct phrasal verb, but you're missing a word. You're missing the object. There we go. Who's the first one who got it? Leslie. Leslie's the first one who got it right. Good job in the chat. Now I see a lot of correct answers. So my 2 friends are upset with each other and refuse to work it out. Also, it can be figure it out. Both of those are correct. Good job. I chose to use work it out, but figure it out also means to solve a problem. Great job. Both are correct. Is it separable or inseparable? Separable or inseparable? It is a separable phrasal verb, and we're using it referring to the issue, right? They're upset, they have a problem, so that refers to it. So separable. Work it out or figure it out. Great job. Okay, last one. I blank my old history teacher at the park today. I blank my old history teacher at the park today. Which phrasal verb are we going to use? And is it inseparable or separable? And don't forget, you might have to change the verb tense of this. You might need to change the verb tense. Good. Matt's is the first right answer I see in the chat. So lots of you chose the right phrasal verb, but in this case, we need to make it past tense. I ran, not run, I ran into my old history teacher at the park today. Ran into. Very good. So remember, run into means to see someone without planning it. So you were at the park and you just happened to see your old history teacher there too. You ran into them. Or maybe you saw them and accidentally bumped them. So you ran into them accidentally. It could be either meaning, either one. Great job. Great job. Okay. Really quickly before we end today, I would like for all of you to either use a phrasal verb that you learned today or use a phrasal verb you already know and give me an example sentence. It could be separable or inseparable. I would like for you to try and use a separable phrasal verb if you can, and try and put an object in the middle. Don't give a sentence that we already covered today. Give me a new sentence. And then I've got some info to share with all of you. I'll put this back up for those of you who maybe want to take a screenshot or you can't see it. So using a phrasal verb that we learned today or one you already know, give me a great sentence in the chat using a phrasal verb, either an inseparable or a separable phrasal verb. All right. While you're doing that, again, I just want to say thank you so much for joining today's live lesson. I hope you all learned clearly the difference between inseparable phrasal verbs and separable phrasal verbs. It's important just to keep in mind that Learning phrasal verbs can be difficult. It can take a lot of time because there are so many, but practice, practice, practice. That's what's going to help you perfect learning them and using them. Maybe you can ask your Cambly tutor to go over some phrasal verbs with you each class. That way you can learn a couple each time you're meeting with your Cambly tutor. Again, don't forget, if you joined in late today, this live lesson is recorded. It is going to be uploaded to Cambly's YouTube channel, so you can go see it again, watch it as many times as you want. I also want to remind all of you that our last live lesson for the holidays is going to be Sunday, December 4th. Sunday, December 4th will be the last live lesson. Then we're going to take a holiday break, and we will come back with live lessons on January 8th, 2023, into the new year, okay? Also, as many of you know, Thanksgiving is approaching this week. If you celebrate, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. With Thanksgiving comes Black Friday. So there are going to be some special promotions for Black Friday. So all of you, once this live ends, go to Cambly's YouTube channel and find a special discount code in the description of this video. All right? Great sentences today. Great job participating and learning all these phrasal verbs. And I will see you next year. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.